Test, 1, 2, test. Good morning. welcome to this morning's Dharma School service. I hope everybody is enjoying this Sunday morning and joining us for this service. As we begin, we'll begin with the reading of Sambujo, followed by the reading of Juseige. If you please join us now. Once again, good morning and welcome to this morning service. Our guest, not our guest speaker, our speaker for this morning, our Dharma message will be given by Ms. Sumi Tanabe, who is one of our minister assistants. And we are always, it's always good to hear her Dharma talk. So if you would please join us in listening to Sumi Tanabe's message.
Thank you, Rinban. Good morning, Dharma School students, teachers, parents, and friends. Let's put our hands together and recite the golden chain. I am a link in Amida's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I will keep my link bright and strong. I will be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will think pure and beautiful thoughts, say pure and beautiful words, and do pure and beautiful deeds. May every link in Amida's golden chain of love be bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Namo Amidabus. Namo Amidabus. Namo Amidabus. I hope all of you are doing fine. Yesterday, I went to Kaiser to get my second booster shot. It was nothing. My left arm is a little sore, but that's all. I feel a lot safer now that I have my second booster. I want to tell you the story about the rabbit in the moon from the Gatha tales. Please join me in Kansho. This is from Reverend Suji. Listen to the voice of the Dharma. Listen to the birds singing in the morning, the wind sighing in the boughs overhead, and the roar of the waves on the beach. Namo Amidabus, Namo Amidabus, Namo Amidabus. I was forced to clean out one of my closets because I was having my home security system upgraded. And I came across this large plastic box, which contained lots of materials, lots of conference materials, documents, booklets, pamphlets. And I was starting to sort them all. And I came across this one booklet that was dedicated to the Concord Dharma School. It was done by Stephen Ueno, David Wakayama, and Mao Tamura. And the first printing was funded by Fujinkai, BWA, and reprinted in 1995. The Rabbit in the Moon. The Gatha Tales are a collection of more than 500 stories. These stories are attributed to the Buddha. Through these stories, the Buddha shared experiences of other lives. The Bodhisattva ideal is rooted in wisdom and compassion. This is a story of a rabbit. Deep in India, in the forest of 1,000 years, the trees of the forest have grown for decades and have not been harmed by any natural weather conditions. There is a river and a lake. The animals can play in the water on hot days. The reason that the forest has survived many years is that there is a guardian of the forest. There is an old man living in the moon who watches over the forest and its animals to make sure nothing happens to them. Among the animals, there lived a rabbit, a monkey, and a fox who were best friends. From the time they were very young, they have played together. One evening when the moon was full, the three friends were playing a game to see which one was the fastest and the strongest. The rabbit was fast, but the fox was faster and the strongest. The rabbit, the three, oh, then they had to see who could win the race. And then they threw rocks to see who was the strongest. With his long arms, the monkey threw further than both the rabbit and the fox. The old man in the moon had been watching the three friends for some time and decided to have a contest of his own. Only this wasn't to be a test of great physical strength. He wanted to see which of the three was the kindest. To be kind, you must have an inner strength that was more powerful than any physical strength. Disguised as a poor old beggar, the old man came down to meet the three friends. Please help me, he said. I am a poor old man and nothing to eat. Can you help me find some food? I am very, very hungry. Of course, we will help you, old man, the fox answered. Wait here, and we shall bring you some food. With that, the three friends ran into the forest to find food. But the fox came back with some fish he had caught earlier and had been saving for a special occasion. The monkey returned with a very large bunch of bananas. The old man was very happy with what they brought him. The rabbit was gathering grass, which is what he ate. He realized that men don't eat grass. When he returned to the old man, he saw what his friends brought and was very sad, for he hadn't any food to offer. The old man felt sorry for the rabbit, and then the rabbit had an idea. He gathered some wood and built a warm fire for the old man. I'm sorry I bring you no food, but I have built a fire so you can cook me. And when I am well cooked, you shall have a nice rabbit dinner. Upon saying that, the rabbit jumped into the fire. Before the flames could harm the rabbit, the old man quickly pulled him to safety. He said, Rabbit, your heart is in the right place, but you should never do anything that will cause yourself any harm. You have shown to me that you have a kindness that cannot be measured. I offer you a home with me on the moon where you shall be happy forever. The next time the moon is full, look closely. And I bet alongside the old man, you shall see the rabbit with a very kind heart. The story of the rabbit and its willingness to sacrifice himself for another reflects the compassion of the Buddha. Do you have friends like the fox, the monkey, and the rabbit? Friends you like to play with or hang around with? Friends you will help if any of them had a problem? You don't have to sacrifice a lot, but with a little bit of your time, you can extend a helping hand to someone who needs it, or a kind word, or just a smile. With so much negatives going around in the world today, all of us should reflect on our own actions and see what ideals we can strive for. Remember the words in the golden chain. I will be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. Please join me in Gassho from Reverend Suji. The heart of the Buddha Dharma is the power of infinite wisdom and compassion that has been operating throughout timeless time for the supreme purpose of enlightening all things. Namo Amidabus, Namo Amidabus, Namo Amidabus. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Sumi, for that wonderful Dharma message. Yeah, sometimes we look and say, oh, maybe we have nothing to contribute. But if we consider it's what we are able to literally give of ourselves, that can mean a great deal to others. It can be a simple thing, but still something that comes from your heart to acknowledge or to recognize the needs of another and to be able to try and meet those needs. Thank you for that Jataka tale. There are 500 of them. I didn't realize there were so many. But thank you for sharing that with us this morning. We'd like to have Gatha at this time.
Dharma school is over for another day. Let us gather round the shrine, bow our heads and say, thank you, teacher, for your help. Thank you, everyone. Buddha's love will keep us safe till our work is done. So we'll meet again next week. Won't you take good care? Let us try to do what's right, always kind and fair. We shall spread the happiness faith in Buddha brings. Now it's time to say goodbye till we meet again. Namo Amida Butsu, sing this fine refrain. Namo Amida Butsu, sunny day hooray. Namo Amida Butsu, strong in faith remain. Namo Amida Butsu, till we meet again.
Thank you, Curtis Takahashi, who was a ukulele player and the singer of that Gatha. Thank you, everyone, for participating in this morning's Dharma School service. Next week is Hanamatsuri, and so normally on Hanamatsuri we have a very large service in the annex building. Of course, we're still under COVID, but we will have only one service next Sunday at 10 o'clock, a family service at 10 o'clock, and our guest speaker will be Mikame Sensei. So please plan to join us next week at our Hanamatsuri service that will be at 10 o'clock family service. Thank you very much, everyone. As we conclude, will you please join in Gassho and Nembutsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. See you later. Thank you, everybody. Sensei. Good morning. Welcome to this morning service. Before I forget, and before next week Sunday is our Hanamatsuri service. So there'll be one family service at 10 o'clock. So be sure to join us for that 10 o'clock service next Sunday for our Hanamatsuri service here at the Betsuin. I was talking with Mikame sensei a little earlier, trying to remember, the both of us are trying to remember the Hanamido that we had last year. And she reminded me that we actually had simply the baby Buddha and some flowers around the baby Buddha, and we did Kanbutsu representing the Betsuin. So we'll probably have that again this year. We'll start with, hopefully we'll be able to have a regular Hana Matsuri and Hanamido again, maybe next year, but certainly this year we continue to observe COVID protocols. So we'll have our little Hanamido here, not a Hanamido, but we'll have our baby Buddha and do Kanbutsu here in our Hondo. But again, that's next week will be our Hanamatsuri service. It'll be a family service that will begin at 10 o'clock. Let's begin on this morning's service. Thank you for being here. We'll start with Sambujo, followed by the reading of Sanbutsuge. If you would please join now in the reading of the three treasures. Hard is it to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear it. If we do not realize the truth in this life, when will it be realized? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we absorb ourselves in the principle of the way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves the supreme will. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we be submerged in the depths of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we live in harmony in the great assembly as disciples of Buddha and be freed from all hindrances, becoming units of true accord in a life of harmony, in a spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through myriad ages of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Good morning, and once again, welcome to this morning's service. Over the past few years, the Betsuin has been involved in a process of identifying our what began as an exercise in determining our core values, and it would seem like it would be an obvious kind of an idea that it would be right at our fingertips, but it was a rather long process, and that's because I think the temple is not just one thing. It has many parts to it, and often the different parts are involved in things that are related to, but maybe somewhat slightly different from what we are doing here. But also the process of identifying what we're about helps in making decisions at the temple. So if we come to a question about whether we should be doing something, or whether we should be making this decision or this decision, the decision-making process can be made easier if we know clearly what we are about. And if everybody agrees that this is who we are and what are the purpose of our organization, if you will, what are the values of our organization, that this temple is about, then we can ask ourselves, if we choose this or this, which will align closer to what this temple is intended to do. Many years ago, I was a part of the American Leadership Forum, and Sumi Tanabe was the one who nominated me and asked me if I would be a part of this organization. And it's fairly old now. Now it's fairly old. It's about pretty close to 40 years old now. But the American Leadership Forum brought people together, people from industry and the private sector, and then from the public sector, brought these people together. And we worked together for about a year, meeting, I think maybe in the beginning, maybe once a week, and then to once a month. And we worked on a project. We went through a retreat together. And each of us bringing our skills, our interests, our experiences into this group work. But one of the things that we worked with, one of the materials that we worked on was a book called Built to Last, and that kind of the pieces of that, or at least what I took from the book and this exercise of this 1 year of working together, there are bits and pieces that I kind of felt that were relevant and important in my understanding of how organizations can function. And the organization might be a business, it might be a nonprofit organization, and it could also be applied to who we are at the Betsuin. And so as we were doing this exercise, beginning this process, those kinds of experiences from so many years ago came to mind, and I thought these are things that I had learned and I would share with the group. But as we identify, who we are, what we're about, why we're here, again, it may seem like an easy answer. Oh, we're a Dharma center, and so we should be sharing the Dharma. And certainly that's one of our core activities here at the Betsuin. But what does that mean, to share the Dharma? What does it mean in terms of our organization and our future of our organization? How do we understand what that is about? One of the examples that we had in this book that during the American Leadership Forum's ALF gatherings was two companies were kind of looked at and compared, and one is both same industry, but one is very successful, and one is extraordinarily successful. And when we look at these two companies, we see that the great company has qualities and characteristics that brings it out in the field of their area of work. And the other extraordinary company, the reason it's extraordinary is because everybody understands within that company what they're about. So it's not about the bottom line. It's not just about making money, but there is something more that is happening within that company that allows it to move forward. One of the examples was the 3M. 3M, we kind of, all kinds of products that have the 3M that are identified with 3M. And I don't know, nowadays I don't think, it's not as prominent what is an identity as it has been in the past. We know IBM, it's a quick, we know what that's about. You say IBM. 3M, maybe not as much as it used to be in the past, but it started out then as a manufacturing and mining company. But I think the most common thing that we are familiar with of a 3M product is stickums, those labels, sticky labels. And the idea of 3M was to encourage to try things. It would encourage their employees to experiment and to try new ideas. Innovation was at its core of 3M. So when a scientist was experimenting with different products, and he came across this material that was sticky, but it wasn't permanently, regular Scotch tape, you stick it to something, you can't take it off. But he had this material that seemed to have the quality of being able to stick, but at the same time could be removed. But because of 3M's idea, or one of their, we'll call it core values, I think they have different names for these kinds of ideas nowadays, but because 3M had this core value of innovation and they encourage their people to try different things, and if it didn't work out, then it didn't work out, and do something else. But because of that innovation at the core of 3M, the scientist was encouraged to kind of figure out something to do with this, and eventually that became the sticky notes that we're so familiar, that I have in my Satan. All of the markers within my Satan are sticky notes, because I know I can take it off later on. But because that was a core value of 3M, they were able to, and that's just one example of how the company encouraged that kind of experimentation, following things that seemed to be unrelated to their business, but yet because innovation was a core value, it aligned with what 3M was about. And that's just an example. In business, there were several examples on these kinds of comparisons between these different companies. And over the past 25 years, since that book was written, and companies, comparative companies that were listed in that book, it's really interesting how those businesses have changed also over time. But looking at that, thinking back over those discussions and those presentations during that time, provided me with this idea that we could use some of these practices to move the Betsuin forward. Certainly, it's not just my idea. I think the people that we gathered together into these discussions and committees that worked on for many years, trying to clarify for us who we are, what is our purpose, what is it that we are about. The banner that's across the street on our education building, and you haven't had a chance to see that in a very long time, but if you remember when Fujimoto Sensei was here as Rinban, we were already undergoing this process, and we put up our mission statement on that banner that still hangs on our education building. But after all of this work, we have now we have a vision statement and a mission statement that that hopefully identifies, gives a good sense of who we are and where we would like to be 15, 20, 30 years, 50 years from now. What is it that will carry us into that future? And by having this clear idea of who we are and our purpose, we can make decisions based upon the alignment with these values that we have here at the Betsuin. And so our vision statement reads, we are striving to create an inclusive environment of unconditional acceptance, respect, and gratitude, where we honor the past, appreciate the present, build for the future, and learn to engage in a life of compassionate action. That's a lot. That's a lot. But it's clear where we would, what we would like to have as who we are. These are characteristics and qualities of who we should be, or who we are, or who we would like to be as a temple. So again, we are striving. Right? We're still striving. We're still trying to create this inclusive environment. Striving towards that doesn't mean that we're not there, we don't have those qualities, but we're trying to further deepen that sense of inclusion, to let others know that we're an inclusive community, that we understand the importance of unconditional acceptance, respect, and gratitude, where we honor the past. So it's not just thinking about what I need or what I want for this temple, but it's recognizing where our temple came from and all of the work and the thought that went into establishing this temple. To be, again, unconditionally acceptance and respect. Doesn't matter who walks in our doors, that we include them in our Sangha. And this is basic Buddhism, right? We may not be Amida Buddha, we may not be Buddhas ourselves yet in the practice of our Dharma, our teachings, this is at the core. This is fundamental to who we are, especially in Jodo Shinshu, where we recognize our own limitations, that the compassion of Amida Buddha extends to all beings. And so we reflect that within our Sangha, that no one is excluded. We're kind of going over this during one of our meetings, and while we were talking about how we might be, what kinds of examples that we might have had of this inclusivity. But I remembered, this was from a long time ago, but there was an example that was, to me anyway, clear, where some of you may remember we had a visitor while, this was maybe, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, maybe more than that, because Rinban Inoue was here at that time. But Sunday mornings we'd have a visitor and come into our service. And when he came to our Dharma school service, and our Dharma school services were quite full in our Hondo, our visitor Richard would come and he would sit in one of the pews in the back, and then people would kind of move away from Richard because Richard was a unhoused person, a homeless person, and he wasn't able to care for himself physically as we were able to do. And so, and then he would be talking to himself during service, and not really disruptive, but still we could still hear him talking. And then once in a while, I'd have to go and remind Richard, we can hear you talking, so you have to keep your voice down. But and Richard would come to services, Sunday morning services, and I guess the reason Richard came, or at least we thought the reason Richard came was because of the snacks that would serve after service. But I think Richard also came in the afternoon to Japanese language service. So there was something here in the Hondo that brought Richard here. And I think he felt comfortable enough to return for several years. I don't know what has happened to Richard, but he would stay at the Armory sometimes and stay down in Gilroy at other times in the year. But that's just one example of how we can be a welcoming and opening place. I think after a while, people got used to Richard, and so as Richard wandered around in the snack area, people started to approach him. But at first, we didn't know what Richard was about, and so we kind of stayed away. But eventually, I think we were able to feel more comfortable that Richard was a part of what we do here at the Betsuin. But that inclusivity is not just with a person like Richard, but to all beings, to everyone. Sometimes we get in trouble with that, but then we have to kind of make adjustments. We need to recognize also our limitations. We had a person here who would come regularly, but eventually turned violent, and so we have to put a restraining order and prevent that person from coming. Actually, there have been several of these restraining orders that, not just for this person, but in the past there have been other individuals who have had we've had restraining orders put out for. But where we can, we try to be inclusive and to respect everyone as best as we can, because that's the foundation, right? And it's a reflection of the Buddha. We have examples in the stories of the Buddha where that it didn't matter where you came from, what your background was, that you were able to come into the Sangha. There's a story of the young barber boy who became a disciple of Shakyamuni Buddha. And following this young boy who practiced with Shakyamuni Buddha, sometime later these young men from the families of the aristocracy decided that they would become students of Shakyamuni Buddha. And as they took their vows and entered the Sangha, they saw this young barber, said, "Hey, come here, why don't you take care of our things, and we need to have these things cleaned up." And so if you do that, and they were used to doing that for people who were outside of their caste and people who were younger than them perhaps, and so they were used to just kind of telling people what to do. And so they told him, you got to start doing this for us. And Shakyamuni Buddha said, "No, he is your senior. You now have to take care of him." And so it was a kind of a acknowledgement of this young boy's place in the Sangha. It was not to discriminate against new students, but to be able to recognize that in our relationship with one another, that we should acknowledge the place and position and the background and of that individual. And within the Sangha, those who come first, they are to be respected and honored. The word sensei means born before. So it kind of implies that a sensei has experience and understanding and some value. It's still applied in that way, I think, but sometimes it's misapplied. In some cases, maybe misapplied. But that there is a base from which we are all included, accepted. And that's fundamental to the teachings of the Buddha. But that's where we're kind of headed, right? We're headed toward the environment where everybody is included, and that we have the resources to support that, that we are able to continue to care for and to teach and to share the teachings of the Buddha. A place in which everybody feels comfortable and at ease. So many examples. In the Metta Sutta, when the monks came to Shakyamuni Buddha and said, we can't meditate here. These tree spirits. What can we do to have them stop bothering us? And Shakyamuni Buddha said, you have to change. You have to become a welcoming person. And so he taught them the Metta Sutta. May all beings be happy. May they be joyous and live in safety. And so the monks thought that Shakyamuni Buddha will somehow do something magical and make them go away. But he changed them, right? They had to change as they went back to the place where they were staying. And this vision that we have is both this kind of guide that will take us into the future and a way of knowing why we're moving in that direction so that we can accommodate and to deepen that understanding of why we are. That vision statement is something that we all, I think, kind of innately recognize as being important, but being placed in a vision statement, I think, can help us to say, yeah, this is what we're about. We're really about doing these kinds of things. And that we are able to, in our activities, to express what we are about. And that's a kind of a long-range vision of where we will be. And the mission statement, be a community of peace, happiness, and understanding by sharing and practicing Buddhist teachings. By sharing and practicing Buddhist teachings. So it's not just about knowing what the teachings are about, but to put into practice things like kindness and compassion. And we're not Buddhas, so we're not going to be thorough and complete, but we can do these things. And as we do those things, we kind of are deepening this vision statement. Expanding, not for the sake of expansion, not for the sake of getting more members, but because we are Buddhists, because we are Jodo Shinshu people, that this is the way that we behave. This is the way that we act in the world, that we are a community of peace, happiness, understanding by sharing and practicing Buddhist teachings. And so we can be involved in all kinds of activities, which we are involved with, because this is who we are. That we are a community of peace and happiness and understanding. So our core values, who we are, identifies who we are. We are certainly a Buddhist community, but as a Buddhist community, these are the things that we that are at the core of who we are. And that in our actions, in our decisions, in how we engage the world, this is what is important to us as a Buddhist Sangha. The mission statement again, be a community of peace, happiness, understanding by sharing and practicing the Buddhist teachings. I guess we should make a new banner and hang this up across the street, so that when we think about what we do here at the Betsuin, these are the things that we will be mindful of, that will have in our everyday life. And we do that. We have to just remember that we're actually doing these kinds of things. Maybe not to the extent that we would like to, but still we are involved. We are involved in things like community service. We are involved in things like helping one another, being aware of the kinds of challenges that we have in our community, and being engaged in trying to find ways of addressing these concerns. And having in our kind of everyday life a sense of peace and happiness, a sense of well-being that we can share with others. This mission statement and vision statement, again, is something that we've been working on for a very long time. Many people have been involved, and all of us, in a way, have been involved in putting this statement together. And I think as we deepen our understanding of this mission and vision statement, it'll become clearer for us where we are going, where we would like to be, and how we might be able to get there. Thank you very much for your presence here this morning, for this morning's service. Thank you very much for your kind attention. At this time, I'd like to have our Gatha. Thank you, members of the choir. It's always good to hear your presentations. And thank you very much again, everyone, for joining us for this morning's service. Please remember, again, next week, Sunday, is Hanamatsuri. There's a joint family service that we'll observe from 10 o'clock. Our guest speaker is none other than our Mikame sensei. So please come and join us for that Hanamatsuri service. Thank you again. If you please join in Gassho as we conclude this morning's service. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you, everyone.